Okay, so they want us to make this to a single trig function. Okay, so well, let's remember tangent, you know, is sine over cosine. Cotangent is upside down of that, cosine over sine. Secant is 1 over cosine, and cosecant is 1 over sine. Okay, so what do we have here? This is going to be 1 plus cosine. I'm just going to use c, and the bottom is 1 plus 1 over cosine, right? Secant is 1 over cosine. We good to there so far? Now, what are we going to do? Can we just grab this guy and just flip it up, and then just grab this guy and flip it up? No, we actually can't do that. The problem is there's pluses. It's because of these plus signs or minus. Plus or minus glue things together. I think I've talked about this briefly before, but it's worth talking about again because it's super important, not just for this class, but if you're going higher in math and science, calculus and physics and chemistry stuff, you need to know these rules about adding, subtracting, and how they mess up things. So first off, did you know that when things are added, subtracted, you can't just cancel? Let me prove it to you. What if you had 4 plus 2 over 2? Could you just cancel those 2's? No. Why not? Because it's really 6 over 2, isn't it? 4 plus 2, which is really 3. Right? 4 plus 2 is really 6. Over 2 is 3. And if you cancel the 2's, now it's 4. So that's clearly wrong, isn't it? You cannot cancel those 2's. Can you? So I'm just helping you to see. Math is just going to follow the truth here. Look at that. That's true. You can't just cancel those 2's. Well, what if it was times? Would it be okay then? It totally would, because what is that really? That's really 8 over 2, which is 4. If you cancel the 2's, it's still 4. See how it's okay now? So you see, the problem is the adding and subtracting. It's the same deal. The problem is adding, subtracting. When you have things added and subtracted, you can't cancel out parts of them. You have to deal with them all at once. So that's what you got to watch out for. So when we have fractions over fractions with adding, subtracting. That's it again. Here we have it again. Fractions over fractions with adding, subtracting. If this was just times and times, I would just flip that guy up, forget about it. Piece of cake, no problem. But when adding and subtracting get involved, it's much, much, much more difficult. You need to know these rules if you want to rise above this class. If you want to go into pre-calc and calc and beyond. So what do you do then? You multiply. Instead of flipping things, you cannot flip things. You cannot cancel or flip. So what do you do then? You multiply all the terms top and bottom by the LCD over 1. And the LCD equals 1 of each type of item under a small bar. So 1 of each type of item under a small bar. So what is under a small bar? Only the C. He's the only thing under a small bar. So what's our LCD over 1? It's going to be C over 1. But you got to do all the terms. Now I'm just going to do C for the other ones instead of C over 1. Why? Because they're not fractions. It's the same thing. C over 1 or C, same thing. It's just easier just to make them a plain C. Is that good? Now we carry that out. So I'm doing the same thing to the top and the bottom of the fraction. So I'm not going to change anything. And then we cancel. Right there. So what do we get then? C times 1, C. C times C, C squared. C times 1, C. And this is just 1. Did you track with that? Much nicer now. It's not fractions over fractions anymore. It's just a regular fraction.
Do you have to keep the 1 there, or doesn't all that just cancel out? I mean, or
Yeah, this right here becomes a 1. Yeah, because the c's cancel, but we're left with 1 over 1, which is just 1. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, sometimes it's time we do that and we just ignore it. Yeah, if it was multiplied. In other words, if this was times, change it. If this was times, if that was times, what would c times 1 be? What is c times 1? Well, it'd just be c. So that's why we're ignoring the ones, because ones that are multiplied do nothing. Multiplying by 1 changes nothing. So if that was multiplied, I would just say, yeah, multiplying by 1, that's nothing. And I wouldn't even write it. But if it's adding, well, that's a different story. Adding 1, that does something, right? And it must stay. That's the difference. That's the difference you're seeing. It's a great question, Alicia. That's the difference you're seeing. If something becomes a 1 and it's multiplied, yes, we fully ignore it because that's reasonable, isn't it? Multiplying by 1, that doesn't do anything. But if it's a 1 added, right? If I have $10 and I add 1, now I've got $11. That's different. But if I have $10 and I multiply by 1, it's still 10. Nothing happened. That's the difference. Great questions. Everybody seeing that difference? It's because, so you really have to be focused on whether you're adding, subtracting, multiplying. That makes a big difference in what we do in our math operations because sometimes things matter, sometimes they don't. Multiplying by 1 doesn't matter. Adding 1 does. So really the 1 is always there. It's just when he's multiplied, we don't bother to write him because he doesn't do anything. But if he's added, he's doing something. He makes a difference. So we can't ignore him. All right, good question. Now, where are we going to go from here? Well, this is where experience will teach you to recognize this and this. They have a common C. They both have a C. Remember, we did this earlier. When you have two terms separated by a plus or a minus that have something in common, what do? You put it in the front of the parentheses. I'll just put the bottom. The bottom's not going to do anything. You put it in the front of the parentheses with the plus sign in the middle, and you put inside whatever works. Whatever would multiply to go back to become C and plus C squared again. You put in there whatever works. Well, what works? How do you know what works? You just multiply and find out. This is reverse distribution called factoring, right? I put the common C in the front, and then I say, okay, C times what? 1 would go back to C, and C times C would go back to C squared, wouldn't it? See how that would work? That was almost a pun. I said C. How that was, sorry. No more joking around. It's pretty lame math joking there. So everybody see that? That's C times 1 and C times C would go back to C and C squared. That's called factoring. It's huge in higher math. Right, good. How do you know when to do that? Whenever you see two terms with a plus or a minus in the middle that have something in common. That's what you want to look for. You want to develop an eye that'll recognize that. When you have two terms separated by a plus or minus that have something in common, you put it in the front. Put the parentheses, the plus in the middle, and put inside whatever works to make it multiply back correctly. You reverse distribute it. Okay, so now what happens? By. Those are the same thing. The order doesn't matter, right? Just like with numbers, 1 plus 2 is 3, just like 2 plus 1 is 3. It doesn't matter. 1 plus C, C plus 1, they're gone. All we're left with is C. We're done. This is cosine, and I had Y on mine. Cosine of Y. Done.
I'm sorry. The last part, I didn't catch the last part. How did it cancel out?
They just match. They're just the same thing.
I see. Okay.
that good? Whenever we have the same thing, top and bottom fraction, we just cross them out there.
When multiplying, right?
Oh, right, yeah, because this is times. Is that what you mean? Because that's times, yeah. Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just saying for clarification, it's only one.
Yes, yeah, if it was C plus 1 plus C over C plus 1, I could not touch him. Yeah, good clarification. Yeah, you cannot get down because yeah, I know I've talked so much about the when you can or can't. You might be nervous. You might say, Mr. Wimmy, you're canceling a plus sign right there. Well, yeah, but I'm taking the whole package. Does that make sense? Like that, I'm taking the whole package. In other words, yeah, it's a great question. Let me address it a little more thoroughly. Basically, the way I've come to tell students about it to make it clear over time is pluses and minuses are like Costco glue. They glue things together, making them a package deal. You ever shopped at Costco or Sam's Club? They have things in packages. You can't buy just one. You can't go and buy one spaghetti sauce. You try to, it'll be glued to another one or maybe 4 of them. You have to buy them all. You can't take your scissors to Costco and cut the plastic and say, thanks, I just want one. They won't let you buy just one. They give you a cheaper deal for buying a bunch. Well, that's what pluses and minuses are like in algebra. And this is fancy algebra, basically, we're doing here, even though we're in trig class. It's fancy algebra, and it gets fancier as you go into pre-calc and calc. Pluses and minuses, so pluses, I should say adding, subtracting. Adding, subtracting is Costco glue, which means it makes a package deal out of things. So right here, I'm buying the whole package. So that's fine, right? Costco will sell you stuff. You just got to buy the whole package. Whereas if I had C plus 1 over C, I could not cancel. Why not? I broke the package. Do you see that? Not allowed because I right, these guys, this C and this 1 are like, hey, we're connected. We're a package deal. You can't break our glue bond. You got to buy both of us or buy nothing. All or nothing. That's what we mean by package deal. All or nothing. That's what you do at Costco, right? You buy the whole package or you buy nothing. You can't break up the package. That's what pluses, that's what adding and subtracting does in the world of algebra. It glues things together. So that's why you can't do that. In fact, it's good you can't because it's just not true. I proved it to you, right? 2 plus 4 over 2, that's not 4. It's really 6 over 2. It's really 3. It's not 4. You see how it's just wrong? Math isn't just trying to make hard rules here. Math is just helping you see what's true and what's false. So now you say, Mr. Aaron, are you saying that if that was times, let's make this a 5 just because 1's going to, times 5, then you could cancel? Absolutely. Times is shopping at Save Mart. You can buy just one, no problem. They're not glued anymore. It's the pluses or the minus would have the same problem. C minus 5. You cannot do it. It's illegal, not allowed. Pluses and minuses glue things together like Costco. But right here, I'm buying the whole package. I didn't break the glue bond. This is times here. I didn't break the glue bond. This 1 plus C was glued together. I said, great, I'll take your whole package, please. And I'll take the 1 at the bottom and I'll cancel them both out together. The whole package, please. Costco will say, fine, enjoy your package. Right? See the difference? Pluses and minuses are like Costco glue. They package things together, all or nothing.